So I have a TikTok, right? And you're free to follow if you want. I post fashion design process, but I'm not here trying to plug myself. The project that I filmed this week came about because of a TikTok video of mine. Sophia, a photographer from Riga, saw it and decided to invite me to make a dress for an upcoming shoot. So I agreed. The only caveat is that I only had a day to do it. To be fair, the shoot was in a week, but since I recently started working full-time, I only had Saturday to buy fabric, come up with a design, and make the final thing without a mock-up or a single fitting. Here's everything that I got from that outlet fabric store. Half a meter of the stretchy jersey that is a little bit ribbed. Then half a meter of this a little bit silky kind of think polyester, I'm assuming, but it's outlet store, so I'm not that mad on getting synthetics. Then 2 meters and 2 meters of those two different organzas. They're 3 meters wide, which is unusual, but because this is basically meant for curtains, I am very lucky with getting a 3 meter wide piece, which is quite cheap as well. It was, I think, about €2 per meter, again, because it is an outlet store. Some of those areas have a tiny defect which I can work around because I'm making this piece a little bit more experimental with gathers and stuff, so it's okay. Then this beautiful thing, it's also a mesh jersey, synthetic, but it's gathered in some areas, which is going to provide me a really cool effect if I stretch it out, and because I'm going to be working with stretching with gathers and folds, is going to give me a really cool effect. And then a little bit of tie, so I have this dark brown bias binding, which is a little bit like satiny stretchy elastic, and then this unstretchy cord, which is also very dark brown, and I'm going to use it to tie some sections in. I'm going to bring my pin cushion with me tomorrow for the shoot, but still it's going to be a little bit more adjustable than usual. And again, you see there are a lot of different brown tones in here, and I really like it because I can play around with layering, and this way creates a little bit more different shades as well. Like if I layer this brown over this brown, it creates like a mid-tone brown, which is very unique, and I'm going to start working with this now. There are some designers who work right off a sketch, producing gorgeous outcomes. I prefer to apply a different strategy and layer the processes. For my step 1, I usually go for playing with fabric, either in my body or in a mannequin. In this case, I used ribbed jersey and draped it on the bottom part of my dummy until I liked what I saw. Then began the sketching process, starting with the draped part. I imagined where the different fabrics would fit best, taking their texture and qualities into account. For example, I wouldn't make a tight skirt out of non-stretchy organza without even knowing the model's size. Even though this sketch is in colours, I was also thinking about the tones of brown and their placement. I find it is the easiest when all the fabrics are lying in front of me and I can reference their colour easily. I was happy with the first sketch, but decided to do a couple more to develop the ideas a bit further. After all, I could always come back to the first design if I wanted to. Second option that I'm trying out is actually starting with a structure building piece. So this string would be a thing that I could pull my fabric over top of so that it would be gathering. So for example, if I were to start the piece with this section, I'll probably have to tighten it underneath, like making it sort of a bodysuit on the bottom so that this section would stay in place and not want to just move upwards. And again, I just repeated the same process of draping, sketching while thinking about the color and texture of my fabrics. Now that I had a couple of sketches to choose from, I decided to test one out by draping my fabrics like on the illustration, keeping them uncut to have variety and not to lock myself into a final design just yet. This did limit me to only work with the front, but left room for changing my mind if I weren't fully happy. This is my first attempt, and the colors on the screen look a lot more different than they are in real life. This is very neutral blonde in real life, more brownish leaning instead of gold than it is on the video. I think I'm quite okay with the left part. I kind of like how it breaks down into section, how this top section is very tiny. The pieces are becoming larger and larger with every step. Whereas on the right part, I think I quite like how the gathering starts happening right above the waistline. But this top right section, I feel like it leans way too close to like prom dresses, and the fabric, satiny fabric, does not look good. And in real life, again, it's not this green leaning, it's a little colder of a color, and maybe that is the issue because all the rest of those brown tones are warm and this one is very cool leaning, so it looks a little bit out of place. And this is exactly why I draped my first option without cutting the fabric, because I like the physical version of the sketch way less than the paper and pencil test. So I went back to my first version of the sketch and created a map out of elastics to act as outlines of potential fabric sections. Typically you would do that with an adhesive garment marking tape, but I keep forgetting to buy it, so I substitute. This this is where option 2 is at right now, and I think I'm gonna go for that one. Maybe I'm gonna change this section in the process by adding a tiny little bit so that this middle portion where we have the scar in the model is gonna be a bit more eye-catching, because now this section is a little too similar to the size of the section on the top, and I don't want it to be symmetrical because the entire thing in itself is asymmetrical, so we want to try and keep that in mind as well. Another tiny change that'll probably happen is that I'm gonna gather this panel very differently. I'm gonna probably start with this because I'm just gonna gather it on a sewing machine so that those gathers are gonna be a bit more frequent and small, and it's gonna lie very differently on the body. And I think I'm quite happy with it, especially because I was trying to put those lines in place before, kind of like a map, a guide for me to work with. This little map that I created on the back is gonna help me place all the pieces on the back as well so that they look cohesive. Typically when you design, I would suggest you don't focus on just the front or just the back or just the side, because the person is going to be walking, they're going to be visible from 360 degrees, so you want all the sides to be cohesive and well balanced. That's why when I was working, I created this sort of map for me to follow, like guidelines. And yes, I did focus mostly on the front because we're going to be doing a photo shoot where the focal point is going to be the model's scar, but I did try to create an easier time for me to balance out the back as well. Because the front is so asymmetrical, I'm going to keep the back asymmetrical as well. For example, the bottom section, you can't really see that well, but the gathered piece from the front is coming to the back in a kind of slanted diagonal way, which also going to give us a bit of asymmetry. But since I have those straps, they're going to come to a point on the back. With stretchy fabrics, it's better to aim on the smaller side, because if I'm guessing the model is either extra small or small, I'm going to go for extra small because the fabric is stretchy and it's going to stretch over her if she is size small. But if it's the other way around, stretchy fabric is going to be loose on the body, which never looks good. Once I finalized the design, I started cutting my fabric pieces out, adjusting them with grain and pattern direction in mind. Since I wanted the left ribcage section to have even gathers, I folded my organza in half, stitched 2 parallel lines with the widest stitch setting, and pulled them until desired length. And then finished all the sections piece by piece. Because I hadn't made a mock-up for this dress, I had to come up with clean finishings on the spot. Since I don't have an overlocker, I choose to finish everything by either using bias, like in this clip, or by stitching elastics with a straight stitch and folding it onto itself multiple times until hidden. A little hard to explain exactly what I was doing in this clip, but I basically connected sections the best way I could think of. In some areas like this one, where one fabric is a little see-through, I didn't mind the elastic not being completely covered up because I was happy with the color match and it was on the inside anyway. Before finishing the gathers and attaching them to another section, I fixed them in place with a simple top stitch to keep the fabric distribution as it was on the mannequin. The long organza pieces were kept the same with a raw hemline because I wanted to be able to fix them on the model and keep them adjustable. So the next day I did just that. Because the jersey skirt version was covering up the scar too much, we decided to cut it down the middle a bit further and hide the raw edge by folding it and covering with organza skirt. This was my first experience sewing right on the model and she was very much down with it, so I'm very glad for Karina. Thank you for being so open-minded. This was such a positive experience. Despite meeting all of those people except the model for the first time that day, I felt like we were a team. The photographer and her boyfriend set everything up, used a Polaroid, film camera and a digital one for a variety of images. The photographer's friend, an illustrator, was also helping with the set and provided so many cool references for my future research that I'm even more inspired to dabble into animation now. We talked for an hour and I stayed for a little bit longer to help with the second shoot Sophia had after hours. So basically this is my thank you to TikTok algorithm for bringing me to Sophia's attention and eventually bringing me to a group of creative individuals in the Baltics that I'm incredibly lucky to have met. Thank you, TikTok. If you want to see more photos from this gorgeous photo shoot, besides the teaser images that I already shared with you, make sure to follow the photographer, the model and me on Instagram because I'm definitely going to be sharing those. Thank you for watching. Bye!